Welcome to Truthzilla. I am Megan sitting here with Scott and Ed. This week we are speaking with some of our favorite truth warriors, Monica Perez and Brad Binkley from the Propaganda Report. How are you guys?
Ooh. Great. Fantastic. How about you guys?
And we're great.
Excellent.
Man.
Thank you for being here.
So much for coming on.
Yeah.
So
Thank
excited.
you so much for having us. I'm very excited.
Hey, you guys don't even know. Like I've been like I remember when the Drive Time News when Propaganda Report transitioned over Drive Time News Blast. And it's like every day, dude.
Wow.
You just get your down like every day, like a quick little boom, boom, boom. Like okay, I see what's going on. Your guys' perspective is always just so unique, and I love your perspective on everything, and it just makes me think. And I don't know. And I can't. I always tell people about it. And you guys listening, if you have not checked out Propaganda Report, Drive Time News Blast, like it's just absolute. Like, what are you even doing here? I don't even know. So
Thank you. We only did it because we were looking for that. I had my show and Binkley was with me on Saturdays on WSB, but I would try to do my research and I couldn't find any news that seemed legit anywhere on YouTube, nothing. Occasionally I would find someone who seemed really great, and then in the last minute it would be, and everything's gonna blow up by gold.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do that. And now I guess everything's gonna blow up by Bitcoin.
All right.
And so we just there was a need, and boy, it's a lot of work, and you really have to stay upbeat because reading the news every day it's like I feel like I'm in Clockwork Orange. Like they might as well like glue my eyeballs open to make me watch it, but
Oh God.
Yeah.
you gotta keep a good attitude.
Well, the other thing too that I got to commend you for is you're always coining these awesome terms. Like the first time I ever heard coincidence theorist that's a Monica Perez-ism right there, and we use that a lot too. So I got to give you credit for that. But I figured like, what could we call? It's not news. I mean, it's absolutely not news. I mean, it is propaganda, but we got to come up with a great name for it because mainstream media, news, all that stuff, it's played out.
I might have one. I used to have a glossary, and then when WordPress took me down, it got all messed up. There was a lot of formatting. It got all messed up, but I just brought it back. I'm going to work on it. I'll read through it. I might have a name like that.
Yeah.
But if I don't, I will figure something out, and I will find a way to give you a hat tip.
Okay.
So.
Okay. There you go. It'll come out extemporaneously, hopefully, in this episode. We'll see. So, awesome. Well, shoot, guys. We've been hanging out on the Union of the Unwanted. It's a real honor and a pleasure to have you on here. Anybody who does listen to your broadcast knows you guys love, you look at the propaganda behind it. Okay, what's the meaning? What's the message? And an instrumental part of constructing the propaganda is the idea of the dialectic. I hear you talk about it all the time. So where are we with that? Broad question, I know, but...
Well, I mean, I think there's two ways of looking at it. It's the old problem, reaction, solution thing. But then there's the kind of classic one, which they call it the Hegelian dialectic. I don't even know if it's Hegel, but where it's thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So the problem, reaction, solution doesn't necessarily have to be a synthesis. But like I always thought, the 20th century dialectic was capitalism and then like communism and fascism, and then everybody's social democrats after that. Everybody has social democracy after that. And then I thought, what is the 21st? And the only big conflict I saw, the only one, was the conflict between the West, which they call Judeo-Christianity, but it's really secular humanism, and Islam, which seems to be like the purest kind of formal, people still do it, huge religion, and they don't like interest on loans, apparently, or supposedly that's in their thing. So that's not good. So I thought maybe what might be coming is you take that's that thesis and the antithesis, and when you come to the synthesis, it would be like a merger of church and state, but secular. So you'd have like moral rules. And I'm not saying this is that, but you can see with like my kids, they think standing too close to somebody online is like really bad manners, to the point where it's almost like a sin, or to not wear a mask is kind of like it doesn't have to be illegal, it's immoral because you're hurting other people or you're hurting yourself. And I don't know if that's in the offing where we're going to have these like moral rules in it, but those are the kind of things. But then of course we all see the little dialectics emerging every day, where you have tension here, tension there, and then an agenda is coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're talking about the synthesis and everything, and what I'm picturing in my head is Astana, Kazakhstan, and the pyramid there. What is it? The of peace and truth, and they have all of the religions coming together in this one pyramid where everybody comes. It's just like for me, it's the model of the New World Order, right? Like it all fits perfectly together. That's
like the Tower of Babel kind of thing, where everything comes
like
together.
Kind of, if you haven't checked it out, I would seriously check it out.
I don't
Kazakhstan,
know it.
I think, is just a huge kind of a red herring, anyways. That it's like they did Borat, and it's like the middle of nowhere. But then they've
Oh, is
redone.
that where Borat was?
Yeah.
So they depicted like this, totally ass backwards, just primitive country, when in fact it's like this very advanced.
Well,
that one
the
city.
capital city,
Yeah.
they've just redone it, and it's. I swear to God, it's the New World Order. Like this is what we're looking at. It's.
Oh, okay. Because I have seen. I have this thing that they want the entire world to look like an international airline terminal.
Sure.
Like everything is like a white gloss and chrome and blue neon
Certainly.
lights. And if you watch, I have a screensaver that is like drone footage. I didn't do it. It's on my TV, but it's like drone footage over every city. And when it hits like Abu Dhabi or something, it looks like my son has a Lego of that really tall thing. Like it looks fake.
Yeah.
And
totally.
that seems like what the future holds.
Yeah.
Sterile niche lists, so you can't surveil people. But I'll have to check that out. I haven't noticed.
Yeah, certainly.
Yes, Sacha Cohen is all about promoting getting people off of social media because of speech. He doesn't want people saying things on social media. He says if Trump would kicked off a long time ago, then all these people wouldn't have died and they murdered people. And so he's all in on the New World Order.
Totally.
And he also played that role of the spy, whose name was also Cohen, in the Netflix series, which I think it might even be called Spy or something like that. But it's just interesting. His thing is that he camouflages himself as other people, and he sets people up in situations to get them to say things that condemn them and would get them kicked off of social media. And then on the other end of it, he's calling for people to be removed from social media.
He's like a fish bait for like cancel culture, right?
Yeah. There you go. That's great.
Oh man. Have you guys heard of Neom? Have you heard of that at all? So our friend, one of our favorite listeners, Robert, he's been talking a lot about this. Neom 2030. So in Saudi Arabia, it's the new smart city for the future. Like it's it's just a major, massive smart. It's just, if you read the description of it, it's like literally Agenda 2030, like all wrapped into one. It's kind of freaky.
And this is in Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. It's a planned, planned smart city. Incorporated smart city technologies and a tourist destination. Anyway, it's like
some of these places I think are like petri dishes, or where they don't have all of the rules. Like in Russia in the 60s and during that time, there, if you go deep enough into the Cold War, you can see elements of it being kind of a setup.
Yeah.
So that's like wasn't just Cold Warriors, whatever. And some of the stuff they did over there, and I think for surveillance they do it in China. I think some tech in Israel, and maybe this whole social thing in Saudi Arabia. But in Russia, they would do all these human psychological experiments. And I think theoretically you should kind of boycott all the fruit of the poisonous tree. We shouldn't exploit that psychological data, but I'm certain. I mean, look at what we did with artichoke and stuff, taking the Nazis and their scientists and incorporating them. I mean, that's just wrong. But sometimes I feel like our satellites are the petri dishes for these little things. And Saudi Arabia, I mean, why England or whoever let them get so rich? Or I guess the royal family must just be figureheads or something, because there was absolutely no reason for them to let them just get so insanely rich. And I guess this is how they pay the bill.
Exactly.
Yeah, this says here, a city that knows your every move. Saudi Arabia's new smart city might be a glimpse to the future. They're building this city in the desert where it knows its residents better than they know themselves.
Lovely.
Gosh, that sounds like Google. Isn't that
right?
why the NSA created Google? So they could know you better than you knew yourself.
Well, they're doing a pretty good job, right?
Or just even think about Google as a whole. It's like they have all the data on every single person, like Google search trends, and they can look for different ways that people interact or things that they're looking for, what's on the consciousness of the human race. And literally they can look at the human race as like a single organism, just with all the smart devices. They can get all your biometric data, and like it's literally just like, it's like God. Like literally, it's like God, like looking down because it knows everything all at the same exact moment, and it's like, whoa. What have we done here?
All this data from all these different devices, and even us, we put the data into Google ourselves. It creates those profiles. We were talking about Netflix recently and how the power of it to spread propaganda, and how you have the top 10 or you have the recommended stuff, and then you're always intrigued. Well, is that a true story? Is that based on it? You go search it on Google, and then articles pop up that are like, what this show got right about racism or whatever cultural topic is related to it. And then those become the top search trends around that subject.
Yes. Interesting. Totally. To hijack it. Yeah, absolutely. I've stumbled across a couple good things. I don't know. Pre-search. Have you guys ever heard of pre-search yet? It's just, it's obviously a search engine. I think even DuckDuckGo has, in my opinion, kind of deteriorated a little bit.
I agree.
You know? But pre-search, it actually, you get cryptocurrency for using it. You get crypto for using it. And it's for me, it seemed like pretty dynamic. Like I was doing some searches and I was like, wow, I'm kind of surprised that popped up. It's not as like visually appealing, but you can have a browser extension added on. You can have it as your default. And then like using the Brave browser with pre-search, you're just getting crypto for all your searches and online interactions and stuff. Yeah, exactly. So kind of an interesting new development.
That sounds like it almost kind of ties into the Bill Gates patented, how's it
the body activity data?
Body activity data, where they can...
You just solved a riddle for me.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure this out. We had... we did a little experiment. We do this weekend thing with an election integrity activist who we know in Georgia. Yeah. And when we were trying to figure something out in real time with him, somebody said, look up Peter Navarro's election analysis. So I Googled it, and the entire first page was every mainstream outlet saying Peter Navarro's election analysis debunked, crap, is dangerous, the whole thing. And our friend Garland said, look it up on Bing. So I switched to Bing, which is Microsoft, and everything just started gushing forth. And I was like, what could this be all about? And I thought, well, maybe they're just chasing us from cage to cage. We can't use DuckDuckGo anymore. You can't use Google anymore. So they'll put up Bing, and then you'll just get used to using that. But perhaps they have a more sophisticated or more valuable, maybe it's a limited hangout where they just have a very valuable data collection thing, and they are willing to drive all the people who care about that to them and kind of evaluate more the conspiracy people, because the NSA Google thing was about creating birds of a feather around your psychological profile as revealed to them through your searches. Yeah. So if they were going to do that, imagine if now they kind of get a little less of that because conspiracy theorists can't go deep on Google.
Yeah.
But I guess they can on Bing. That's very interesting.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes. Looks like
okay. My camera froze up and my Zoom thing is freezing up, so I might drop off in a second and be right back.
Okay, no worries. Whatever you gotta do. We can hear you, but you are frozen on our end too. So
That.
Yes, at least it's a good pose.
It looks normal, right? I mean, you could just let it go.
It could be worse.
Honestly.
We've all had the screen frozen on us on a worse pose for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I've always had the theory too that with the COVID rollout and everything we're seeing right now, that a lot of it has to do with because they have a level of our data at this point where they can kind of, they push the line over and over. But I think they have a pretty good idea each time how far they can push the line, and then they push it and they let it sit for a while, then they push the line again, right? And I've always said they know when they push that line that people will go along with it, right? Because there's been times like if they would have said you were going to do all this at once, no one would have gone for it. But if they were too slow, that people wouldn't have thought it was serious enough, right? So I feel like it's very planned and calculated, and I think it's just basically they can see all our data.
I agree, and you can see this is another thing. It's like, why would Tucker Carlson say true things sometimes? Well, Fox needs some credibility, but now he's like, this lockdown stuff is garbage, and what's the answer? of course, he doesn't have to say it, but everybody knows, you know what, let me just get a vaccine. I even think, I'm like, if my kids insist on it, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? They're teenagers. They're going to live their entire lives in the tunnels with me. They're welcome to, but I don't know. But I went in the early days when I was like within the first week of Snowden being out in the world, I was like, So I looked into it and I was reading about psychological operations, and the way they do it is they float a trial balloon. Then they assess. Sure. Then they can change direction or they can expand. And I'm sure you don't remember this, but I actually just found it. I think it's by accident. I stumbled upon it. I think his name was Ryan Fogel, or that was like the name that was in the news. A few months before Edward Snowden escaped to Russia, some young guy who looked very dumb in wigs and stuff, it was a really implausible story, was arrested in Russia as a spy. A U.S. spy. He was like a week away from retirement. He was about to go home, and he got caught with a box full of like big nose glasses and silly things like that. And I remember distinctly seeing that pattern emerge. And now with Snowden, who of course you probably know I think is totally fake, he is now like his backstory changed. All of a sudden, there was a 10-minute interview with him in a hotel, and then there's a documentary, a full-length documentary. Like totally. What the hell? And it's cool. You know, I didn't watch it. God forbid. I really can't sit through that stuff. But I remember seeing, now I see the pattern of psychological operations. You're 100% right. I mean, they give and take. And then now they folded in all that scenario stuff. So they actually, they can break one way or another, I think probably quicker than they used to.
Yeah,
no,
certainly.
absolutely.
Oh, for sure. It's always been about that data and knowing. But I mean, I would ask you, Monica, I think with everything you know about this dialectic and what's going on, where's the hope lie? Where's the hope lie? That's I
love that question, Ed.
Yeah. Well, seriously,
I needed to hear that.
I mean, we're invested in our freedom cells. We're trying to, learn our homesteading skills. We're trying to learn how to not depend on this system that we don't believe in, right? Like so, but are we even being taken down the same path?
So this is actually for the first time. I'm really glad that we're talking about this, because I started to think more seriously about that question, the freedom cells particularly, and agorism, because I'm sure you've heard me tell the story. I will keep it very short. Like I became an anarcho-capitalist, then I got a radio show on a conservative radio station. So I had to not just be like, blow it up, And then I thought hard about it. It's like the Bill of Rights is worth defending, and that's what I'm going to do.
Sure.
So I did. Then when Obama was president, it was very easy to get people defending the Bill of Rights. But then when it switched to Trump, they were like, oh, don't be such a stickler. I'm like, okay, that avenue is no longer viable. So what? Who am I? I'm just like, meh, Bill of Rights, meh. So what did I ever do to really seize my own liberty? Nothing. So then I thought, well, what could I do? If I'm an autonomous person, is that not self-evident? What can I do? And I happened to read Ted Kaczynski at the same time. And I was like, blow it up. But no, I didn't. So I just thought, okay, I should be able to sustain myself and defend myself. Let's just say air, water, and land is something that's really not in scarcity. I should be able to work with that or keep my mouth shut. So that seemed the answer. Like that was like my new red pill just over the past year. And then I saw that article, the 2016 World Economic Forum article. It said it's 2030. I have no privacy. I own nothing, and I'm happy. And I didn't even see it the first time.
You got to see it. It says World Economic Forum. You'll own nothing.
The 666.
You'll be happy with the
right
666 right in the logo there.
Wow. I have to have that. Are you selling that?
Truthzilla.org/shirts, baby.
I have to have it.
I'll tell you, a lot of cool shirts have come out of this movement.
Certainly. Definitely.
Yeah.
So that is true. Yeah. So I saw it later down in that article where it said, we feel really bad for the people who could not embrace the technology and now live on the outside. And I'm like, oh crap, like they're on to us. And I started to worry about it. But then I thought, they're saying that not because it feeds into their plan, but they have to prepare for it. And then I thought, I was just trying to research, like, what do subcultures, because that's what it is, normally do under tyranny? Like, do they get folded in? Can they exist? Whatever. And I I looked into historical examples and I stumbled upon there was a homesteading division under FDR where they took the unemployed people and they pushed them into the rural areas, and they were like partially employed. So homesteading wasn't like subsistence farming. It was where you still make a little money, but you can sustain yourself a lot. Well, people were up in arms. It reduced agricultural prices. It disrupted the culture in the rural areas because they're all city people and all that stuff. And then in 1935, it got passed off to, there was an executive order. And I think, I wrote it down somewhere, the Resettlement Administration was established by FDR. And this is when I started to think, okay, you just have to be smart, because what the resettlement thing did, first of all, it did kind of disrupt cultures, and it also got people who maybe had good jobs in the city to move out anyway. And the big thing I thought is they gave people loans. They subsidized loans. And I thought, okay, if you're going to do this, make sure you've really thought it through. What if, because having a loan at 0 interest isn't good enough if you cannot pay the principal back. Then they take your land and you gave up on the city. You don't even know how to work anymore in the city, or they just maybe your part-time gig was a little Zoom thing and they all of a sudden like just cut off all your access to that. Or property taxes cannot be paid in advance. What if they want to deter property ownership and jack up property taxes 50%? There's this UN stuff where I looked up Habitat 1 from 1976, the first time I read that the UN did not believe in private land ownership. And now there is a UN Habitat thing, but it talks about land right renewal based on race and gender considerations. So maybe they come after land. So I would just say, and I actually was happy to read, to finally figure out what the catch might be, because I think they're worried, and it is possible to stay ahead of it by being super, super smart, avoiding debt or whatever, planning it out so you're sure if you have hard assets that equal the amount of debt you have, maybe that's a way out. Think about, I know agorism really likes to skirt laws, but what it is you have to weigh the consequences of disobeying the laws if that's what you're going to do. So it is important to look at the laws of self-defense, the property laws, water rights, if you can collect rainwater. And I do think, I really go back and forth on this, but I do think it's useful, if not essential, to stay aware and maybe even involved in your super local lawmaking body. And that's not going to work if you live in LA like I do. Like that's a part of your decision making. So I really think that it is, your people are going to exist that way, but you got to be really smart about it. And you know what? That's why that kind of thing, they try to trick us into thinking that you really only use your full potential if you're an egghead. But in fact, you might have to use your full potential growing eggs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes me think about the military stuff, with the military people being targeted in the domestic terrorism push that they're going for in Q, because they talk about their ability to train other people and to create militias that are well trained and a force. But I think that some of that might be because of what you're saying too, Monica. They're probably more skilled at living off of the land, at being able to be self-sufficient because of what they learned in the military. I know the books that I have gotten to learn better about how to live off the land are all military instructional documents from, the 70s and 80s that they give to people who join. So that could be another way that they're kind of scratching those people out.
I actually started noticing that when I used to follow the situation in Ukraine, because it's the eastern, whatever you call them, provinces in Ukraine where they speak Russian and stuff, where those guys, I don't know what wars they were fighting or what, or maybe they were farmers, but they knew how to do stuff. They knew how to use weapons and everything. They're like, don't send us your people, just buy us guns, And I realized then you have to really be afraid of real men, real women who know how to do stuff. And then I circled back to, I remember something Bill Clinton said. I could never find the quote, but I remember it. It was around NAFTA, where he said, we want to make the United States a service economy. And I thought, that is not an accident.
Yeah,
sure.
That's where we ended up. I read this really good article. I'm trying to find it here, but basically it's this famous old, I think the guy's name was Selco, I believe it or not. Nothing to do with the bank, but it's like this old viral post about a guy who actually lived in a complete, as they call it, SHTF, shit hits the fan situation in Bosnia during the 90s, during the civil war there. And he said literally it was an entire year with no water, no food, no supplies, nothing, absolutely nothing. And it was like straight up survival situation. I could put it in the show notes here, but it's like super fascinating. It's one of the most fascinating articles I've ever read.
Was this did he start at zero, or did he know, was he a military guy first?
I don't remember.
Was he
I don't think
Brooklyn Monica, or was he
it sounded like he was somewhat prepared. And it's interesting because he tells his story, and it's just a few paragraphs, and then it kind of turns into this huge thread. And I guess it's turned into this since then, like this big viral thing in like, the prepper survivalist community, right? And so everyone's just asking him questions like, okay, so we do all these things to prepare. So what is bullshit and what's real? Like, what's real out of all this stuff? Like, you know what I mean? And he said the most valuable thing is alcohol. Believe it or not. So he said, that was the easiest thing. And he said that they were able to like break into some distillery and get a bunch stocked up. And
why?
They were
Because
fine.
it's disinfected?
That
or because you got nothing to do?
Yeah, that and pretty much, or people are just demoralized, And then the other thing was that
wow, that's mind blowing.
Yeah, and he said the two things that you absolutely need to survive above all else are bullets and medicine. That's it.
Yeah.
So and I was really fascinated about
antibiotics.
Yeah.
Demoralization is a huge part of what's going on in America and
Yes.
around the world right now.
Yes.
Just
Alcohol, bullets.
Yeah. Just having alcohol,
On
like tobacco.
the
My
list.
survival list just changed. I can tell you that.
I was just
Sure.
gonna look at the grocery.
Well, you need to
list,
start a
like,
liquor store that sells bullets.
Exactly.
There it is. There it is.
Family
It's like
fun
the
center.
worst combination.
Or he said like have thousands of lighters. Everyone should have like thousands of big lighters. Every time you go to the store, because it's great for trading. Everyone needs a big lighter, so you can always just have
Nice.
thousands of big lighters.
But see, that's the kind of thing that if you stockpile it, it could just blow up.
Oh yeah, true. That's a good point too.
So
That's a
I
good
used to
point,
collect
too.
matches. I was a big smoker back in the day.
Yeah.
And I would just put matches, and my sister told me, you always need matches. Just always collect matches every bar you ever go to. So I put it in a thing, and
God.
one day I opened my purse, and just a cloud of sulfur
Oh.
emerged. It was the craziest thing. And so after that, I was like, maybe
not so
some
much.
stuff is like flammable.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
That's great.
But anyway, so I mean, who knows, right? I mean, I don't know where this is gonna go. Like, the way I read that when I first read that World Economic Forum piece was just like, it was because you hear like even Elon Musk talking about how in like 5-10 years, no one's gonna be talking with their mouths. They're just gonna be using their Neuralinks to communicate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
He's our hero.
just as this, as this transhumanist agenda progresses, like I've heard it be described as literally like a breakaway or species, right? We will be the subspecies, those who do not take the body modifications and who do not, subscribe to the smart cities and all that stuff. Like it'll literally be like, and then society and everything is going to innovate in the direction to accommodate the people who have taken the chips and the biotics and all that stuff.
Aren't they just machines then?
I mean, I don't know.
Aren't we the humans? Like I think that with my kids, like we'll be the ones without the vaccinations. Yeah. We'll be the ones without that like port in the Matrix.
Totally.
Yep.
Like I'm a natural
100%.
baby.
Yeah.
I mean, that is if we don't already have that port right now.
They do have the port. I mean, I'm waiting for the kids to just be like, Mom, can I get a port? Because I'm just tired of holding my phone.
Oh, I'm saying we might already
man.
be connected to that
Oh,
port.
I don't buy that. This is a simulation.
Oh, very much so.
It seems like it sometimes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Man.
A psychological simulation for sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
The more stuff goes down and the more time that passes, and especially I have older children, but I have small children still, and I think a lot of what I experience, I feel that I'm experiencing through them, like to a huge, empathic degree, and so it's
Like the little ones, like you see them living in this.
or
world
just like
and-
how they're experiencing what's happening to them. Like they have no voice, they have no say. Like if I say, okay, well, I'm sorry,
Right,
guys, we can't go
right.
in the grocery store unless we cover your whole face and nose and mouth.
Right.
To-
I have
you
a
know,
son
like
with
they-
Down syndrome, and it's the same thing. Like I have to just tell him what to do, and it does not compute fully. And it really, like one time we went through a TSA stop, and this kid like lost his mind, but they were having a drill, but it seemed real. They didn't say this is a drill. They're just like, everybody freeze, and I thought my kid was going to run away and get shot because he couldn't just, perform the rendition or whatever they call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is tricky. And my teens, I feel so bad for them because it's totally unnatural. And I'm like, what we really need is to live in the woods and like dig in the ground. And
well, that's what my family is working toward. We're trying to acquire land. Yeah, we've talked about all getting land together quite a bit, and I don't know whether or not we'll all end up on the same plot or not, but I know there's a few of us that are trying to do that, and to me that seems like the only way. I don't want for my children what's being set out for them. And like you mentioned with teenagers, I have, interestingly, I have a 19-year-old daughter who just told me on Sunday afternoon that Saturday night was her last night at my house, and she's getting married this Friday. And,
right on.
And well, I'm wearing the same. No, I'm wearing the same clothes. No, I'm wearing the same clothes 2 days in a row. I have new I put on mascara 3 times a day for all the tears that cried it off. But it's not that she's just getting married, but it is that. But also she's moving off grid to Missouri. So I have a brother and his wife. They've lived for about 7 years off grid in Missouri. Fully sustainable farm, no electricity, no running water to the property, compost heaps, they have beehives. And they went out there like he was, former Marines and left the military, saw what they did to him and was really hard red pilled. And then they moved to California, which is where we're from. But coming back, I think, and being in the California environment, he was just like, I see past all of this. I don't want to live like this.
This is your son-in-law from...
this is my brother, my younger brother.
Yeah, okay, got it.
And so they just went out there in like a little trailer like made for 2 people with young kids. And they've just been building, and they literally, as a family, even with their young kids, they put fence posts in. They haven't had anybody else on their land help them in the 7 years they've been out there. I guess they had somebody come in and like put their first the beginnings of a log cabin, but they're building a cob cottage. But anyways, all this to say,
what's a cob cottage?
So cob cottage is like,
sorry, I never heard it.
But like I think it's like 80%. I forget what the percentage is, but 80% of everything is from the land. So you're making your own like clay walls and
great.
All that. Yeah. But but so she's
moving
there. She's getting married on Friday. Okay, so in less than a week.
Are we allowed to know about the baby yet or not?
No, that was my first question. She's like, Mom, I need to talk to you and Dad. And I'm like, are you pregnant? Obviously. So no, that's none of that. Yeah. But we did go buy a wedding dress today, so I was crying. But anyway, so that to say,
well, you're crying because you're gonna miss her.
Yeah. I don't know.
Why are you crying, Megan?
Several reasons, but since this will all go out on air for everyone, I think this is like mom conversation for like later. But okay. But so all that to say, I just
did you know the guy before?
What's that?
Did you know the guy before?
Yeah, they've been together. She's 19. They've been together since she was 15 and a half. They went to high school together and then reconnected at the Oregon Country Fair. So it was all magic from the beginning. And anyways, but I think the big thing was it happened so quick, and that I feel that I'm losing her because where she's going, she can't just easily call me on the phone. There's no internet. She can't leave the property and get somewhere else. Like she's really isolated, and she's very extroverted like I am, and very much like all about people and and so for me, anyways, all that to say, there's this thing that I've been working toward, which is I want to get my family off grid. We want to do essentially what my brother's doing, but not in Missouri and not necessarily on his property. That was offered to us, but that just like personality wise, I think that's not a good blend for me. But
that sounds like a guy who likes to have his own scene control. Big time.
It's
you don't want to get into that person's space.
You get it.
You
get it 100,000%.
You want a key to his place just in case.
How did he find the property? Do you know?
You know what? I don't remember. I know
It was a different time.
I struggle sometimes with like memory that goes back a little bit far. I have a little bit of trauma that has affected what I remember how well. So I write down a lot so I can go back later, but I don't recall it easily. I do remember that they were, I don't know how they came across cob cottages, but that's what they fell in love with, cob cottages and the ideals behind building your own home from the land with your own houses and being able to really craft it out, kind of outside of the government telling you how to do it. And really just like that, I think was what appealed strongest to them. And then he was looking like in Oregon, which is, we've been back and forth between California and Oregon, but the laws, water collection, government, thing, it just kept being, red flag, closed doors. And then I don't even remember how he got a tip on some land in Missouri, but it was like this land with a whole bunch of plots around it out in the middle of nowhere. So
Lot
they
of
went
water,
there
too.
and bought the little, their first one. And then in all the years they've been there, they've been buying up all the plots around them.
Nice.
So anyways, I don't remember where I was going with the teenager thing. I can't believe I remembered that.
Yeah, that's a miracle.
So,
I
and
guess you
it's-
haven't hit the alcohol yet.
All right. But it is hard. It's hard. I have also my 18-year-old son has been, doing online college for, he wants to be an EMT. He's been wildland firefighting.
Oh,
and
that's
now they're
great.
telling
You
him
need EMT. That's where the antibiotics thing comes.
Yeah,
Right, there you go. I know.
Yeah.
Wait, I'll not interrupt, but for that, I hear you just order, and this is just allegedly, like, I
Dog
would never
stuff?
do such
Horse
a thing.
penicillin?
So you just from Canada,
Dog.
you can order dog.
You can go into
antibiotics.
Coastal Farm and get it.
Oh, okay, never mind then. So yeah,
Totally.
I'm like, so anyways, that's down at the end of 6th Street in Eugene. But
Okay.
so
For teenagers.
yeah, but that's a hard call because he broke his nose skiing and they wanted to set his nose. They wanted him to have the COVID test, and that was a huge family war because I'm like, he's not fucking taking the test. Don't you go in there? Don't you?
But you have to set his nose.
And I was like, so then I started freaking out because I've been taking my little kids skiing. I'm like, well, if something happens to one of my little kids, I am never ever allowing them to stick that up their nose. Like, can they draw blood and check? Which they've already got all our blood. They've got my fingerprints
No.
and every
Yeah,
I'm
me
just
too.
like, what else can
why
we
the
do?
nose? Why are we doing this?
But
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't want that in there. So anyways, this is huge deal. And so now he's like, and my other son, his longtime girlfriend, fiance, she's going to medical school, and she's nearly there. I mean, like, I'm just wondering, like, where are my teenage kids, my 19-year-old, my 20-year-old,
Yeah.
my 18-year-old, like, they're all really, like, I raised them in, like, California Bay Area. So I raised, like, really social,
Yeah.
like, plugged into the Matrix kids because I didn't know any different at all.
No, I know, but like I just don't have the time or effort or energy to do it. So like they want one wants to be a lawyer, the other wants to be a doctor. I'm like, can't somebody like be a farmer? Like what
I know.
is wrong with people.
I know.
The doctor's a
Someone
good one
make
to have
bullets.
in the
Yeah.
Someone
community.
make alcohol.
yeah.
I know. I mean, we need can somebody gather some bricks so we can rocks from the backyard so we can build a house? Like
Come
what
on.
are you guys are major
true.
slackers?
It's true. Well,
You
it's,
just need to
I
make sure he
know.
moves to your off-grid place after he gets through medical school or
Absolutely.
EMT school.
Totally.
Matt, well, I'm worried. I just don't want them to take these vaccines. Not the COVID vaccine. Not like we
Yeah.
didn't. I have my daughter who I just mentioned is getting married. She was vaccine injured when she was very very small. So
oh really?
Yeah. So
I
we
didn't even know about vaccines. I vaccinated my kids.
Oh,
but-
see, yeah. So when she got hurt, then we didn't do anymore. And so now I have, older kids that have had like a couple sets, and then we saw what happened. And then I have younger kids that have none. I have adopted children who were in the foster care system.
Then they definitely.
And
had
so
it.
they got like their first set before they
Yeah.
came home. And so there's like, I can see also all the different things that have happened like with them like physiologically.
You have a vax versus unvax.
Yeah,
study
totally, right there in my
your
house.
Yeah, I know. That's why I feel like they want to make sure there are no anti-vaxxers because they will have this massive multi-million person trial of uninjured people.
That's it.
Totally, for sure,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point too. I mean, that's a whole nother rabbit hole, but why they want them immunized younger and younger and younger and younger and with no control studies of people who are not, like you say, because they can't have it be even from a young age. Like we need to have regressive behavior. They need to label it as anything other than what's actually happening as they, commit a slow genocide against us all.
They do like people. I'm convinced that they need people to have symptoms of stuff and they have to give you the drugs for it because so many of the little things that, like the older I get, the more little things go wrong. And every single solitary thing, I mean, I stopped going to the doctor basically, but they would just give you a pill for it. And then it would kind of work, but it kind of give another problem. So finally, I just always look to real serious research, people, naturalists, whatever, who do studies or cite studies, and one after another, those problems are, you just feel overall better with these things like bone broth. Like I was having joint
Sure.
problems, bone broth, stuff like that. And it really makes a difference. And it's holistically better instead of holistically injurious. So I'm all for that, but I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to get kids to see that because they just believe they're just propagandized constantly. And what do you do?
Certainly.
Are your little kids allowed to have screens.
My little kids are the ones that will come and talk to me about, oh, Mom, remind me again. So it was the Nazis that came over and made up the CIA, right? And we listen to David Icke in the morning to start our days. Like, the little ones have been, like, I've been hard red pilling them for the last year. I mean, they're still, like, hard under my influence because they're, 8 and 12 and 14. They don't really have a choice.
I assume you're not sending those kids out into
No. And not online school either. So we don't do any of that business.
Nice.
But anyways, yeah. So I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. That's what happens.
You're good. David Icke in the morning.
Let's see. I'm sorry.
We were talking about the whole. Well, one thing that I know we wanted to talk about was the vaccine, the kind of trialectic. I have this thing where they have. I was going to say it's dialectic where they have the scarcity thing and people jumping the line and being shamed for that. But then in the news is also people who, especially all the research that Binkley brought about, how they're targeting people of color to get, who are vaccine hesitant. And then, so I thought that was dialectic. Then I thought there's a third piece that they are actually exploiting the anti-vaxxer thing by blaming all the problems going forward. So they're going to still, I think the word is rendition. They're still going to have you perform those rituals like the mask, and the social distancing and all that stuff. They're going to have a anti-vax apartheid. So people who have gotten the vaccine are going to have privileges and rights in society that the people who haven't deservedly is going to be the thing. Like, they have made a choice. It's not like they were born that way. They have made a choice to endanger all of us, and therefore they need to be ostracized. So the anti-vax thing they're going to use to create social conflict. That's another thing Binkley found about the Q and the anti-vax thing merging. I mean, that is going to be a source of unrest.
Yeah, I even
from one to the next.
I heard that just a few weeks ago. Like, apparently, I was talking to an associate, somebody I know, who was saying how they heard this. Like, there was a stadium where they were doing like mass vaccination, right? And a bunch of Q people came and crashed the place and caused a big ruckus. Was that
Los
LA?
Angeles Dodger Stadium.
Yeah. And so I could tell that he was just like spitting like MSNBC talking points at me. You know what I mean? But it was just like, and he was saying, these Q people, now that they lost the election, they don't know what to do with themselves. So now they're turned all anti-vaxxer and they're attacking people at vaccination clinics. And I was like, really? Oh.
Binkley, you totally were all over that.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah.
And were they even really there? It was like a lame, totally over-reported nothing burger. Right?
When you read what the people who were protesting had to say, it's not anything like what the people who were portraying the protesters. They made it sound like they blocked the gate, they prevented people from going in and getting their vaccinations, and then the dude who was there was like, I don't know why they said that we blocked the gate. We were there holding signs, and we were really surprised when they shut everything down because we weren't in their way.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
they wanted
just
the
make
story.
it up part of the story. The news is to demonize them.
Yep,
absolutely.
I mean, it seems like this has all been happening like as planned since January 6th, right? Like since the insurrection, right? Since then,
yesterday
they
we were
have this
talking.
great
We were like,
label.
it gets so exhausting having every time, because I do it too every time. I go, insurrection, quote because we have to qualify it, because as Monica said, they beat you down with it until you start adopting the language without even realizing it sometimes.
For sure.
I mean, do you guys think that any insurrection, any real insurrectionist activity went on there? Do you think that there was any real thing?
No,
the unarmed insurrection.
No, it seems like
no one was armed for the first thing, right?
Yeah,
so
it's a great
they weren't
band
armed.
name, unarmed insurrection.
Unarmed insurrection. Yeah.
And I mean, on the other side, I mean, there was like, I've heard 1 million people there. There was a lot of people, and how many people
at
actually?
Least 100,000.
Yeah, how many people actually went inside and they were like going in the ropes and just they were there for like just getting photos, right? They were just there to get their photos and
of themselves. They all had selfie sticks.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, this is me with in the insurrection. There was nothing. There was no weapons at all. And the funniest part was when my friend who was there said, we all make sure that we're on the bus by sundown. That's what we do. So one guy, he got a little rubber bullet in the head. So we waited for him. We were about 20 minutes late for him. And the other kid got arrested, but it was not really for anything. So they let him go. We were out of there by like 5:20.
I love it.
That's crazy.
That's great.
And I feel like if it had been real, they probably wouldn't have gone where they went. We'd be at Bill Gates' house. We'd be at Google headquarters. We'd be, there's other places that I think that people would go if they were actually looking looking to overthrow something, and it certainly wouldn't have been there. I can think of a few addresses. I know a couple, but maybe won't.
And it wouldn't have been on. It would have been on any other day of the year except for that day,
Right.
which was the last chance to actually scrutinize the election for the guy that they were there in support of.
Yeah.
Yep.
They wanted it to be challenged, and then they stopped it before it went all the way through
Yeah.
the
Right.
challenge.
So
So they
true.
sabotaged. It was just really stupid, the whole story.
Mind-blowing.
And the New York Times article that drew all these circles around people's faces, kind of like a terrorist group, and drew all these lines to them. So this is the leader, this is the other leader, these are the underlings, and made it look like this horrible set of terrorists. And then you read deep down in the article, and it said that text messages they got text messages because they worked with AT&T, and they confiscated text messages through the FBI for a bunch of these guys that were there. And it said, well, the text message of the one dude said that they didn't bring any guns to the Capitol because of local laws. And I'm like, oh, the insurrectionists didn't bring guns because they were following the law?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an interesting point, though, about the text messages, because today's story in the news was, and it seemed like a complete crock from beginning to end, was that the testimony on the Hill was, well, the big problem, and this was so 9/11, the big problem is that we couldn't coordinate intel, and there's a chain of command problem, and there's different sections of government, and there are rules, and so if you're saying they're coordinating with AT&T over text messages, I mean, text messages, they're going to say there isn't, and I guess there shouldn't be, but there is certainly an expectation of privacy with a text message, unlike
Absolutely.
Snapchat or Twitter DMs. Like, you think DM, but that's stupid. You shouldn't think that. But the text message.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they got the text message. I think it was through AT&T. I know they got data from AT&T that was tracking the movement of all of the people within a certain range. And I believe they got text messages. I need to fact check that for sure. They did get the text messages, though.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. But I think now they're going to try to make it even broader. They're totally going to try to increase the surveillance over this. Obviously, it goes without saying.
Well, they're expanding from the people that were just there now, and they're trying to get people that are tangentially related to this event now. They're they're spreading. We saw when it happened that this was to put us all in a bucket, right? This was the domestic terrorism bucket, right? So,
Well, plus anyone we know that was there say that everything that was reported, anyone that was on the ground and right there, anywhere, it's all garbage. It's, we all know that, but it's just.
That's what I think everywhere. But a lot of the more prominent people who are in defense of the peaceful protesters on January 6th will say they're all being painted with a bad brush because of the stupid activities of a few people. And it's like, but it wasn't stupid activities of a few people. It was agents provocateur.
yeah, totally.
Who set the whole thing up. I don't think there was a single, I really don't think there are people who can't think straight. There are people who have like extremely low IQs that you could probably bring there and exploit. But short of that,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even think they got like that mob thing going where people, my friend said they just opened the gate.
Yep, that's what. My good friend said the same.
We saw the video, right? We
Yep.
saw
She
videos
showed me a
of it.
picture.
Yeah.
She said, I brought Jesus to the top of the stairs because a lot of the people were right to lifers.
Yeah.
I brought Jesus. This is me and Jesus. So it was her and her friend and a giant crucifix. And she said they opened the gates. So we went to the top of the hill, the top of the stairs, so we could look around, at the crowd.
Yep.
And we had a friend take a picture. So they took a picture of her. She said, see, you can see the doors open in the back. So the
and
doors of the Capitol were open in the back, right behind her.
They sent a memo out.
Timestamps and everything.
They literally sent a memo out that said, leave the doors unlocked when you leave the building. And this memo ended up on social media. So everybody there knew the doors were unlocked because they told them to leave the doors unlocked.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's just pretty clear. Like, it's pretty cut and dry. Like, all the news outlets, all the politicians, they all had their script, right? And they stuck to it, even though it didn't go off nearly as big as they thought. They were counting on the mob mentality to take over. They were counting on, the people to just go off the hinges and possibly commit something that could potentially have been worse than Pearl Harbor, right?
Literally every single time we talk about what happened there, every single time it comes up, I start hearing that crazy circus music playing, like really high pitched and really fast in the background, like you know what I mean? Like it's such clown world.
Yeah, we've played that song on our show before. We use it as background music, but we get a copyright strike every time. So it's just like whatever. Maybe we'll just
always playing in my head when we're talking about anything that's happening in the world.
We'll have to get JJ Boogie to throw you a little music that
you go.
doesn't have a capital sound right.
There you
Heck
go.
yes.
But so anyway, that just brings up the point too. Like, it's such an interesting little trap, like rock in a hard place that we find ourselves in now, because part of the main problem I think that we've been in this whole time is just the fact that we've stood down, right? There's that argument to be made that Q in the whole purpose of it was just like a pacification thing to keep everybody just trusting the plan, sitting at home, like not doing anything. We go to lots of lockdown or anti-lockdown rallies, and it's just like there's just nobody there. There's like 50 people. It's like, dude, there should be 20,000 people here right now at the Capitol and here in Oregon. It's just like it never happens, right? So we've been told to stand down, but it's like but now it seems like if we were to go out and do any sort of public demonstration, we're just setting ourselves up because they've got all the chessboard set up perfectly, one move away from a checkmate of just some massive false flag operation, and then brings the whole house down.
For sure.
In a show we did the other day on Rockfin, these were former CIA agents and people who worked for the Department of Defense talking at the Council on Foreign Relations about what to do in the wake of the January 6th insurrection. And they talk gleefully about how the CIA uses black propaganda operations to infiltrate QAnon and create paranoia and turn them against each other, and then just kind of see what happens. And they're excitedly waiting to see what happens on March 4th when this happens, so they can collect all the data about how they react to it.
No, absolutely.
I want to go back though. I think it was before that. I think the hope was Ron Paul. And some people make valid points that maybe he was controlled. Opposition, I think they're not great. I've been mulling that over for many, many years, and I'm not there. And I usually get there if there's a there, which I hate that. So I think that what happened was Ron Paul came out and he was completely right. What he said was absolutely consistent with the American founding and with Christian values, which is what most of these people think they want. And I had a radio show during the time, so I had callers during the time that he was running for president. And I'm telling you, just like I said, when they moved from Obama to Trump, their ideals changed. They allowed themselves to be kind of just lazily, intellectually influenced to think that Ron Paul was dangerous because the Republicans had already, since the 80s, started this thing where they convinced them that unjust war was just, that you could go into somebody else's place. So then they would say, because they were convinced of this, they had to have convinced themselves that they were in danger from people who lived in tens of, 5,000 miles away. And then, so they would call in the show and say, you're crazy, Ron Paul's crazy, which is just fucking ridiculous because he was the most lucid person out there. But they would say his foreign policy is dangerous, that we'll all get, I don't know what, nuked? Like, what did they think was going to happen to us? So then they did that. So they allowed him to get robbed of Iowa and Maine and all the things that gave him the kind of momentum that it would take for an actual grassroots guy to get. They let the media do it on the left and right. People just sat back and wanted Mitt effing Romney. Okay. So that continued to piss people off. Then they take that energy and they empty it of content and they give you Trump. And who told us I wanted to go march on July 4th? And people are like, well, what are you marching on DC for? It's a local problem. Like, it's not really a local problem when they're putting out $4 trillion deficits to subsidize blue states. I live in a blue state. Let them cut us off. Please don't do this. Why is Trump signing these things? Did Trump say, come give me support? I don't want to sign this thing. Let's show them. We've got 4 million strong. If Hillary was there, I really think there would have been 4 million people with long guns in the Capitol. But there weren't. And I feel like that was Trump. So now they had all that time. This goes back to what Ed was saying in the very beginning of our conversation, where they get ahead of this stuff. So they've gotten all the way to where they had the Q stuff in place now. They say that this stuff was all a Trump phenomenon. The Oath Keepers was established in 2009. So it's not, but they put it in there. They've been controlling it the entire time. And when the Boogaloo Boys started, the Proud Boys and stuff, I was like, you guys are like calling for the boog and stuff. It's not time for that. That seems aggressive, and you just don't have enough people for that. Ron Paul had the right idea, and it didn't work at all. And that's where I think we are to blame, not because we didn't go I mean, I think it was too late. I wanted to go to DC on July 4th, but it was too late. There was absolutely no momentum because Trump didn't tell them to.
Wow. Absolutely.
Sorry. Is that bad? Is that
No.
black?
No.
Is that
No,
black
no,
pill?
no. We're still in the red zone.
Yeah, certainly.
I'm letting it process and sink in.
I like to be pink pilled. I like
They're
a
even
red pill
calling-
and some white pill.
Yeah.
People who talk about JFK and people who talk about 9/11, they're calling them QAnon conspiracy theorists too, as though that's a new thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's just the
Lincoln,
yeah.
you question the Lincoln assassination, you're a QAnon guy. It's everything they throw in the QAnon bucket.
Green the 9/11 thing, but the 9/11 conspiracy was a Democrat conspiracy.
Yeah.
I mean, they were right.
Yeah. Exactly. They were all on board with Alex Jones back when he was talking about 9/11, right?
And they were right.
Totally.
Yeah. Man.
Well, the sheep will be swayed by everyone being lumped under one category. That's what moves the masses, and so that's all they really have to do.
Well, maybe that goes back to why agorism is really the answer, and what we were saying about people being able to do stuff and understand where the rubber hits the road. The more and more, and this really makes me nervous because everything has to have a thread of truth for it to catch on. So like it's a Marx thing, but the idea is that you're so disconnected from your own labor, from reality, from how your hands move the dirt to get you where you need to be, that you're just really, you feel helpless. It's like trust fund babies. I've known a couple of trust fund babies, and if they don't really have a ton of money, enough for coke and whores and stuff, they're like a little paranoid. You know what I mean? They're just like, well, they're like cheaper than people who just work. I'm like, well, I don't really care about spending all my money because unless I'm actually crippled, I'm gonna be able to waitress. Like I knew a waitress who was 88. I'm like, so I got till I'm 88 to start worrying about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what I feel like when you don't understand how really to feed yourself, and you care about it. So you could also say, like my mother, I don't really care if I get it, that thing, that disease, because I'm just waiting for Jesus anyway. So what difference does it make? So if you didn't care about, if you weren't worried, if you were in fear, if you were both fearful and disempowered, like that's why I think we're so weak.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so weak. I guess like you obviously you can feed yourself. You can feed like 10 other people. I can't do any of that, but I recognize that power.
Absolutely. And then we're trying to make moves towards that, like it was actually ironic, your guys' friend, our friend Adam, right? Never gets red pilled. He's the one that introduced us to the Freedom Cells thing, and he's like, hey, back when he was just a listener of our show, right? And he's just like, hey, you guys should check out Freedom Cells. So that's what we've been doing. We built, there was none in our area. So we started our own and we've been getting all kinds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We've got this huge, we've been doing meetups every other week. Just all people of all kinds of different
live
backgrounds.
near, maybe I don't want to out,
No, you're
but
good.
could you be in his Freedom Cell?
Yeah, so we were driving up to Portland because we're in Eugene, which is like 2 hours south.
Right.
So we were driving up to Portland to go to the first couple ones that kind of inspired us, and we wanted to, and so we started our own down here, and it's been just taking off, and it's just people from all different backgrounds. People like I've been getting into the whole crypto thing. Like I had no idea, and I've just been learning and learning. There's people called the Gleaners, the All-See Gleaners. Man, there's such amazing people.
that?
I didn't
Exactly,
even know
but
what
it's amazing.
gleaning is, but basically
Dude,
it's
glossary entry.
yeah, it's basically they just get food donated to them. They get massive amounts of food donated to them, and they don't even know what to do with it all. And so what it is it's just preserving, just finding ways to preserve all the food that they're getting. You know what I mean? And so it's like they're getting volunteers, and they say, hey, if you come help us out, we'll give you like a year's worth of food. It's insane. Like and they've been showing up to all the little events with like literally like a truck full of food and just handing them out, man.
Is that only in your area? Or is
I don't think
this
so. Look up
I think there's
gleaning.
gleaners all over the
It's like a
place.
thing. It's a thing.
But they did
Yeah.
say, they don't always have this much food.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
it has to do with because of how the lockdown has affected
Yeah.
everything. There's all this excess amount of food for some
Right.
reason that they have to get rid of.
But it's
right
kind
now.
of amazing what these folks do, and I don't know if this is true of everybody, but they have I haven't been out there yet, but it sounds like they have a big farm out there,
Yeah.
and they will I will put seeds in the ground. The chances of them doing much beyond sprouting is I don't have a green thumb. I'm just not good at it. I can't change the tire on my car. I'm just gonna say I grew up in a California girl. Okay, it was very very over taken care of maybe now that I'm looking at the world. I'm like, oh shit, I can't change my fucking tires. So but other than that, they'll show you how to do stuff like canning and how to.
Yeah, they're doing seminars, and that's a big part of the whole Freedom Cell thing. Is like just doing like little classes. Like people show up with a certain expertise, and they're like, okay, so let's do a class on whatever that is. I've been to like a little farm tour. Like just today, it's funny on our little group chat channel. They had some volunteers out at the Gleaner place, and they're like, "Hey guys, we're just washing out buckets." You know what I mean? And I'm like sitting in my windowless office, and I'm like, God, I want to be out washing buckets right now. I'm not even joking. So
no, I'm absolutely sure you're not.
It's powerful stuff. We always talk about it, but just encourage anybody. Like if you're feeling disconnected, if you don't know if there's people like you around there, just go to freedomcells.org and look for one. And if there isn't one, start one.
And that's the thing that's even almost more as important as the skills based is just, and the reason our podcast started is because how we started feeling crazy. COVID hit and we're going, what the hell is going on? The whole world just was hook, line, and sinker bought into this thing that I could tell was a psyop right from the beginning. I was like, this is not real. This is agenda. Right. This is agenda. Yeah. So I'm calling Scott on my lunch breaks and going like, what the hell, man? Like everybody around me is like talking about masks and all this stuff, and like vaccines are already being talked about, and
you think you can joke about it, and everybody sees it, and then they're just like, take a step back.
Totally.
Like, oh my gosh, seriously? You believe this shit?
Yeah.
Talk about the podcast connecting. I saw a chick wearing an Impeach Newsom shirt in my neighborhood, and I mentioned it on the podcast. And she DM'd me on Twitter and was like, I was listening to your podcast. I was like, come on. She's like, I live right near you.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, let's have coffee. Let's grow coffee together.
Yeah. Let's grow coffee. Yeah.
Love it.
That's exactly it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I know they got a lot of Freedom Cells down in LA too. Like it's
Well, Adam was saying I doubt there's any in.
I think I saw.
Like, well, it can't be none.
Dude, star one.
Averages.
Star one. It's been powerful.
I know, totally.
Like I know like Derek Bros and John Bush. They've been doing like the circuit, going to a lot of shows. Like Corbett. Like I know people are going to that site to look to see if there's stuff, and then numbers are growing. Like they have the number posted right on the site. Like it's like a hub. People are coming from all over the world.
You know what they should like when we're talking about. Again, when we started talking about like what's the white pill, where's the hope?
Yeah.
And my idea is that you really got to think. You got to think ahead. You got to worry about the laws and the money. Sure. So if they're going to tax you, if you're going to borrow money, like be careful about that, even a mortgage on your house. And then the laws. So to the extent that there are lawyers who are willing to even just give good advice, that would be a really, I think, an essential part of the of the smart alternative future. And I think, and I do like the Carr and Bird, the Timeline Earth guys, say like this is the best possible time to be an autonomous individual because of 3D printing. And he's don't just buy a chicken, buy a 3D printer. And I think I'm really getting more hopeful, especially as I start talking to people, as I'm open to the idea that they are going to have to tolerate this subculture and they're going to have to malign it so they don't lose too many people to it. And maybe they want to exploit it because they are going to need somebody. Maybe they think of it as like a flywheel. I'm not sure that's the right word, but just like as a maybe they think it's like the question of whether you should destroy the smallpox vaccine or not. Well, what if someday we need to study it for something to happen? It's like, okay, maybe you don't want to destroy every heirloom seed. Maybe you can get a bunch of hippies to live on the fringes just in case. And then if we need it, we'll go steal them. Right. You know, you know what I mean? But they'll let you
Let's put them in the seed vault.
Yeah. Yes. Well, they do have them. We're not getting to that, but maybe, maybe they need to keep a little bit of maybe the meat people instead of the chip people maybe they're gonna be a reserve of like genetic material, like you know what I mean, like maybe they feel like they're gonna be an island. I don't know, but they're preparing to allow the Outlanders. And it's fine. I'm fine. I don't mind being a reserve of naturally occurring genetic material.
Wow.
If we can kick that can a little bit.
I
saw Seed Vault in some sci-fi TV show recently. Was that a reference to a show?
No, they
No, it's
they actually
real.
have one. They
Yeah, I know
actually
it's
have
real,
one.
but I saw that recently. I'm
I
trying to
know.
remember where it was from.
I don't know.
I can't.
I think they save all the seeds,
Oh.
and so they have
The
to
seed
preserve
vault. The
some.
seed vault. Well, the seed vault. There really is a seed vault. It's Charlie Robinson was just talking about on one of his recent episodes, and it's I think it's in like Switzerland or something like that. It's like up on a mountain, and it's sealed, like it's in like
Has to be Switzerland.
30 below, and like you know
Yeah.
it's you
And
can't get in
hollow
there. It's like, but it's the elite's seed vault
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
can't
Right.
we don't have
Because
access to because they
have
know
to
what they're doing
isolate
to our
them
world.
before everything gets corrupted by the GMO stuff,
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
cross-pollinates, and then you don't have that original stuff.
Totally.
Like Switzerland's where it would be. But my husband asked me once where was the bottom of the rabbit hole, and I said it has to be at the top of a mountain in Switzerland.
Yeah, totally.
Whoa, totally, man, wow.
Or
I love,
beneath the ice in Antarctica.
yeah,
totally.
Where the
exactly.
aliens live. Yeah.
Yep,
Or there's another realm under there, isn't there?
That's it.
yep,
That's
realm.
I think so.
I think that's the portal to the hollow earth.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly, man. Wow.
That's out of my.
Yeah,
know, I
mine
know.
too.
I
Mine
know.
too.
I have to do
I've
some
heard,
homework
I've
if
heard
you
some
want me to get
theories.
freaky.
Yeah, totally.
In my head, rabbit portals were opening like really vastly. I'm like, where is this about to go? Okay.
Yep. We found ourselves in some interesting places, that's for sure.
Simulation
Yep.
malfunctioning.
Yep. Well, shoot, guys. Holy crap. This has been such an awesome conversation, man. I
thank
love
you guys
this. I
so
love
much for
this.
coming
Yeah,
on.
Yeah,
This is
what?
great.
That was really
Yeah.
great. What pacing? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Scott, I gotta say, Scott,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
look like a young Fred Willard.
Fred Willard. Okay,
Oh my
I know
God,
Fred
he's
Willard.
quite handsome.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That's
Willard.
funny. Fred, isn't he the guy
Great
that's on like?
comedian.
He's on like.
Anchorman, he's the boss on Anchorman. He's
He can
on,
bench press like.
Oh, is that?
350.
Maybe I'm picturing somebody
No,
else.
don't you remember from Best in Show?
Best in,
Oh,
that's what I was
he's
thinking
so
of. Like,
bored.
yeah, like Best
Yeah.
in Show and like
And the
Waiting for
dog
Guffman
show.
and all those shows.
Yep.
right?
I obviously need to watch
Yeah.
some shows.
Yeah, you haven't seen Waiting for Guffman,
Guest
dude?
movies.
Oh my
Christopher
God.
Guest movies.
Christopher Guest
Just
movies,
watch
dude.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, I got
they're
you.
Awesome. They're awesome. Yeah. Right on. Well, please tell everybody how they can find you guys, how they can support you guys.
Well, I'll tell you the prop stuff, and Binkley will hit Rockfin, which is like my favorite.
Heck yeah.
Ours
you
too.
can. We're like moving to private servers and everything eventually for when we're kicked off everything. So the propreport.com is a great place to go and register your email address so that we can reach out to you when we disappear, which has happened like numerous times.
Yeah, we gotta
but
do
if you want to hear our show, the Propaganda Report, it's on your favorite podcasting platform right now, 30 minutes free every day. The Drive Time News Blast, that's that show. And we bring you the news of the day from a perspective of truth, liberty, and justice. And then we also do deeper dives or we do a patron Q&A, and we do 15 extra minutes for patrons. You can do that at patreon.com/propaganda report. And then we do interviews every other week we try to get experts, subject matter experts, but just to shake it up a little bit. But the flagship is that news, because nobody's really doing it. It's very hard to get it out every day. And it's so you don't have to listen to the radio. So when your mother-in-law starts telling you about how cute people stop the vaccinations at Dodger Stadium, you can be like, I know all about that.
Yep.
And that's not what happened.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah,
Wow.
I love what you guys are doing, and
Yep.
for that reason, because I can't stand to listen to the real radio or TV. So,
Well, they
but I
trained
want to know
me.
what's
I
going
was-
on, right?
They were grooming me for a weekly show, a daily show. Like they only had that. And I had this great old school program director, and he just taught me all this stuff. He like taught me how to do it. And then the day he retired, I was shit canned, and I was like, okay, so let's just, Binkley and I had been kind of waiting, and we said, let's just do it.
Yeah.
So we
Oh,
did.
yeah. And now you can talk about Boston bombing all you want. That's awesome.
Well, we
yeah.
saw it coming. We did start the Drive Time News Blast before that happened, but we saw it coming. We were
Yeah.
just like, forget it. It's
Sure.
how long could this possibly last?
Yep.
The station got sold, but the Rockfin stuff, I think, is where we really blow people's minds.
And we do video deep dives on Rockfin where we deconstruct panel discussions from the CFR, Brookings Institute, Chatham House, Council on Foreign, I already said Council on Foreign Relations, but all of these
World
think
Economic
tanks-
Forum, it's very
Yeah, World Economic Forum. They get together and put their fingers together and laugh maniacally and try and plan to control and shape the world. And they really say some revealing things in those videos, but they don't get a lot of views because the Council on Foreign, like the panel discussion videos themselves, because they're so long and they're so tedious that a lot of people just don't watch them, or they don't know they're there. So we bring them out and try to pull out the good parts of them and talk about them.
You were talking 2 years before when you saw the PsyOps guy, they're now called Info Ops guys, say that the 2020 election was going to be the big tripwire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sure was. But let's, because this is a Swapcast, people who listen to us are going to want to listen to you.
yeah.
So you do the same.
Okay, yeah, well, okay, so we are also on Rockfin, rockfin.com, Truthzilla. All of our shows are up there for free. We've been doing these little things called the Truthzilla Reconciliation Commission every now and then. As a premium episode. Also just launched our Patreon. So we had our first Patreon subscriber, Aaron M. Woohoo! Shout out, brother. Awesome. Yeah. So we're making moves, we're having fun, but otherwise we're on all your favorite podcast platforms as well, and on PooTube for the time being. We'll see how long that
On
goes.
what tube?
PooTube. YouTube.
PooTube, okay.
Yeah, YouTube. Good old YouTube. So
YouTubing.
anyway.
What is the conciliation? Truth conciliation.
Reconciliation.
Truth. So,
Reconciliation.
I don't know. We just have fun with it. We just do like just a little premium
Well, it
bonus
was based off
episodes and-
after.
Yeah, the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions, right? Which is where they round up all the dissidents and choose their, you know what I mean? And so it's the Truthzilla Reconciliation Commission. Yeah. So anyway,
Very
just a play
nice.
on words, but yeah. It's the stuff
Yeah,
we
I
get
love that
into
name.
that you can't really like say on YouTube maybe a little bit. You know what I mean? So there you go.
For sure.
Yeah.
And just on this note, if you guys ever want to coordinate on some Rockfin exclusive content, I think
Yeah.
that would be
Yes,
fire.
and patron too. So
Yeah,
we
certainly.
have live streams, and we're starting to do that for both Rockfin and Patreon. So yeah, that's great. I'm
Yes.
completely down with that.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Sweet.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's great. You guys got great energy. I love it.
Oh,
Great
thanks.
energy and
For sure.
ideas and research and experience. It's really fun. And I really tried really hard not to talk over people and interrupt, because I thought like 5 people is hard to manage, but you guys are clearly masters at this.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Wow. Well, you did fabulously, and we talk over each other, and I inadvertently. I mean, I end up talking over, especially if Mel K and I get taught. Well, it's
Oh yeah.
you know, so
Yeah.
it's okay.
Ed and I just get to take the night off during the Mel
totally,
episodes. Just
totally.
like-
I have to say, I take some credit. When we met Mel, I was like, we have to get her on, because her and Megan, I can just see it. I could see the future on this
yeah,
one, right?
yeah.
So.
But we love all of that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so
Guys,
much.
thanks
We
you
really
so
appreciate
very
it.
much. Such a great conversation.
y'all.
Thank you. We
Peace.
will talk to you soon.
Amazing. Thank you guys.
Peace.
That was awesome. They were so awesome. I love their energy. Like, they just said that about us, but like,
Well,
I love
yeah.
their energy, right? Like, they're
Such a good
they're so
dynamic.
awesome. Totally.
Again.
Another great dynamic. Yeah.
For sure.
And-
And I love how they kind of like question everything, like both sides, because like, I have to say, like, I don't always go question both sides, right? So it's good that it's refreshing.
Yeah, they always have that perspective where it's like they're not buying any of it. They're not
Yeah,
buying any
yeah.
of it.
It's
And
all
I love
bullshit.
that, dude.
I
It's
really
all
like
bullshit.
that.
I love that,
Totally.
dude.
But
That
I
always
do-
reminds me.
I have to go back and read the Ted Kaczynski thing now.
Oh, it's
Whatever.
it's called
I have it. I have it in my notes.
what is it?
Hold on. Don't say it.
Industrial Society and its Future.
And its Future.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great read. At least the first
32 pages, 35 pages.
Yeah,
It's
at least,
short.
At least the first 10 pages are great. I don't know. Anyway.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. You guys, I just want to take a quick moment. Just shout out all of our lovely people out there in listener land.
We
We've
love
got
you,
some
lovely
awesome people who've actually contributed to the show and really helped this thing move along. We're still in the humble beginnings phase, and we really, really appreciate it. We got Valroy on Truthzilla.org. There's a little PayPal button's been donating, and I really appreciate that. That's so
Definitely.
badass.
Thank you so much.
Aaron M., I know we just mentioned you in the show. Just give you another shout out, dude. Our first, he is and always will be the first Patreon subscriber, right?
Thank you, Aaron.
So Aaron, dude, awesome.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much. Rockfin, we got a whole bunch of subscribers, but we have four illustrious people who have actually, contributed, bought the monthly plan. And we really appreciate your support as well. You know what I mean? Brandy, thank you so much. Robert, I love you, dude.
Yes.
Larry, big Larry. Larry, woo! Dude, Larry's the man, I gotta say. And then Cody, our buddy Cody, dude. Thank you guys so much. And then I know Zoe just bought some shirts. So thank you so much.
Thank
all
you,
guys.
Zoe.
Yeah. So all you guys, thank you for helping the truth train chug along. So badass.
So badass.
Anyway.
Well, as always, we appreciate all of your encouragement, all of your support for sitting in with us, for checking into these matters on your own. Please always do that. Please go find Monica Perez and Brad Binkley at the Propaganda Report. What's the daily, remind me?
Drive Time News Blast.
Drive Time News Blast,
DNB.
definitely. And then she was saying go to propreport.com and you can register your email and so you don't miss out on anything.
Yeah.
So please do that. Please come and find us. Do you
Yeah.
get to see the shirt thing?
Oh yeah. So
Say the shirt thing.
Truthzilla.org/shirts. If you enter promo code Truth, you get $10 off your order, dude.
And you can get a 6 shirt like this.
Oh yeah, look, Ed's got it right here.
So World Economic Forum with their 666 that is already in their logo. We made it stand out a little bit more, obviously. And you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Yeah,
so happy.
Yeah, life after the Great Reset. Oh, look at the back. What do you got on the back there?
Oh,
he's got a Truthzilla logo
there's
on
a
the back.
logo
So,
right there.
yeah.
Well, you gotta
wanna
have that.
break my back.
You
but-
gotta have the Truthzilla logo.
Yep. So, bam.
Nice. Wow. All right. So everybody, thank you again so very much. We appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for all of the love. We definitely put it to good use and fill our spirits with it. So I am Megan, sitting here with Scott and Ed. We wish all of you intellectual prosperity. Good night.
Pew pew pew.
Ding.
Yeah.